Call the meeting to order for the Freehold Regional High School District Board of Education. Please, everybody, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I could ask you to remain standing, please, for a second. I'd like to have a moment of silence for the tragedy at Newtown, Connecticut. Thank you.
All right, at this time we're going to take a roll call. Mr. Acetola?
Here.
Mr. Bruno?
Present.
Mrs. Canario?
Here.
Mrs. Lavin?
Here.
Mr. Lawson?
Here.
Mr. Messenger?
Here.
Mrs. Sutera?
Here.
Ms. Tomazic?
Here.
Mr. Moses?
Here.
Okay. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, this meeting has been communicated to the Asbury Park Press, issue of January 4th, 2013. All municipal clerks of the townships and boroughs with the Regional High School District have been duly notified, and requirements of such posting have been met. At this point, I will open up the floor for nominations for the President of the Board.
I'd like to nominate Heshy Moses for president.
Any additional nominations? At this point, I would like to have a motion to close nominations and cast a unanimous vote for Mr. Moses. Does that have a motion? Mr. Bruno? Discussion? Roll call. Mr. Acetola?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mrs. Canario?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavin?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Messenger?
Yes.
Mrs. Sutera?
Yes.
Ms. Tomazic?
Yes.
Mr. Moses?
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Moses. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Now we have nominations for Vice President. I'd like to nominate Jen Sutera. Any other nominations? Discussion?
Motion.
Motion. Enter unanimous vote for Mr. Terra as Vice President.
Motion. Second.
Okay.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Acetola?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mrs. Canario?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavin?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Messenger?
Yes.
Mr. Sutera?
Yes.
Ms. Tomazic?
Yes.
And Mr. Moses?
Yes.
Congratulations to Mr. Sutera as the Vice President. So as part of the reorganization meeting of the Board of Education, it's the first meeting of the newly elected board members. We're going to take some action on the routine items as noted in B6. Mr. Moses? Yep. So it's B6. We'll go down to...
Okay, so it's B6 to the page 6F. We have a motion to take them all.
You can, just with one addition.
Hold on. You want me to read it?
Go ahead.
Okay, so we have one addition to B6G. It's the approval of reorganization minutes action items. G specifically states appointment of attorney. Resolve that Comegno Law Group, PC, be appointed as general counsel for the Freehold Regional High School District as per the agreement on file in the office of the board secretary. Further be resolved that Schwartz, Simon, Edelstein, and Celso LLC be appointed as Labor Negotiations and Special Education Counsel for the Freehold Regional High School District as per the agreement on file in the office of the Board Secretary. So that is the motion.
And my apologies, the other addition is the reappointment of Sean Boyce as Board Secretary. That will be item H.
Okay, so therefore it would be 6A to 6H. Motion,
Motion.
Second.
discussion?
As far as the calendar, when will that make an adjustment so that we see a meeting in Marlborough? When does that adjustment take place?
We can formally approve that at the next meeting. We'll put up a revised schedule and work out to make sure that we cycle through all the buildings within that scope and put it up on the late January meeting.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Roll call. Mr. Asatola?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mrs. Canario?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavin?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Messenger?
Yes.
Mr. Sotera?
Yes.
Ms. Tomazic?
Yes.
Mr. Moses?
Yes. Okay, let's see. We have the minutes to do,
No minutes.
Communication on file, Board Secretary's Office report, Superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. So we have not met as a Board of Education since prior to the winter break, and obviously the tragedy at Newtown, Connecticut occurred within that span, and we conducted the moment of silence. But just to update the public on the status of some of the actions that have occurred here within Freehold Regional High School District in response to that event. First and foremost, I don't think that anyone in this room could imagine that tragedy or that scope of slaughter in a public building, especially with students of that age. But unfortunately, we are living in that aftermath. And from our school perspective, it was very important for us when we came together as an administrative team to take a look at what we were doing as it related to our security, to be very careful to focus on a lot of the good work that had already been underway to improve our security in the school district, and not to jump to any knee-jerk reactions without really fully vetting those reactions. And it just so happened that we had been working on our school safety and security plan and had completed that in November, a few weeks prior to Newtown. And we came together as an administrative team and we looked at our district in a number of different categories. First off, our infrastructure. So how secure were our buildings? How secure were our doors, exterior exits, the systems within the buildings, the physical plant. We looked at personnel. How were we deploying our security officers? How were we utilizing teachers on duty periods and things of that nature? And were we effectively deploying our personnel in the most efficient manners? We reviewed the status of our cameras in our buildings. All of our buildings have typically anywhere between 48 and 60 cameras. Those are older systems at this point in time that we are being diligent with in terms of putting a plan together to make sure that we maintain those moving forward. We looked at the types of drills that we were doing. Many of those are mandated by the state, but there was a lot of terrific work going on with our local law enforcement officials in a collaborative manner with all of our high schools. And our high school principals have been in constant contact with the local authorities about sort of next steps for the school district. And we looked at our communication, how often we were communicating with our local authorities, how often we were communicating with our general public. And from those categories, we'll reconvene on January 15th. We have a number of items in the immediate future. Some of the specific changes to our buildings are the installation of buzzer systems at the front door of our buildings with cameras and security manning those positions, the institution of buzzer systems with cameras at all of our delivery areas within our buildings, which we felt were potentially vulnerable, as well as a look at our duty periods to make sure that we were maximizing the use of our security officers. So each of our buildings has multiple security officers. The majority of those folks are retired police officers and as such with some pretty good experience, and we feel confident in the security team that we have in place. And we're going to come together for some next steps as a school district on January 15th with some specific action items from that point on. There's a lot to debate. There's a lot to take in. I said it previously, and I'll say it again. It is a difficult position for a school building to walk a fine line between security and serving the educational purposes of what those institutions represent in America. And we are attempting to walk that line without mincing the security of our students. There are a number of sort of soft items that need to be repaired first, in all of our buildings in order to make some more substantive changes. And I just want to update the public that work is underway. It's being done in conjunction with local law enforcement officials, and we'll continue to update the public as we move forward. Some other items. So the state of New Jersey, and I've said this sort of ad nauseum up here for about the past year, is launching the required new teacher evaluation training, the adoption of a new teacher evaluation model of all school districts, and to be fully implemented by September 1st, 2013. They're also requiring, obviously, the state has adopted the Common Core standards, and we have park assessment looming in the horizon sometime, they tell us, within the next few years. What all of that adds up to is a bit of school districts being like hamsters on a wheel and running to meet these artificial deadlines that have been imposed by the state. We're going to meet those deadlines at Freehold Regional High School District, and we're going to have our evaluation system up and running by September 1st, and we're going to fully implement our curricula with the Common Core standards. But I have to say there's been a lot of talk the past few weeks from some prominent educators about sort of the status of a lot of these changes and the implications for the tight timelines. And I would hope that the state listens to the districts that are piloting these initiatives presently and make some adjustments to some of those timelines potentially, so we make sure that we get it right. We had a terrific day of training last week in the Marzano model. It was a mix of identified administrators and teachers who were here for a full day, looking at sort of how that evaluation system calculates a teacher's final evaluation number, which is what these evaluation frameworks sort of boil things down to. And there are a lot of unanswered questions at this point in time, particularly with the capacity to do this really well in such a tight timeline. So we are moving forward to meet the state expectations, but we are doing that in very small pieces in this district in a very collaborative manner. We have about 90 teachers that are going through some advanced training that is taking place on the 8th, 9th, and 10th of this month, I believe, and then we have a plan in place to turnkey that training to the other approximately 800 teachers that need to be trained by September 1st. We have a number of days identified over the summer for additional training for the administrators, but it is one heck of an undertaking. I'm proud of the work that we've done as a district to prepare for this, but I want to make sure that we remain focused on the whole purpose of changing the evaluation framework was to recast the conversations in districts about teaching and learning, and I think we need to keep that front and center, that these are tools to promote teacher growth. They shouldn't be I gotchas. They shouldn't be punitive, summative evaluations that are tied in some cases to some math that could be debated one way or the other of that accuracy, and we have to be very deliberate as a school district in how we move forward. We are also conducting preliminary budget meetings. I met with the building principals on January 2nd to begin that conversation. Mr. Boyce has scheduled meetings with the various discipline heads, the directors, the chief academic officer, to look at what some of those budget items look like for the 2013-14 school year. We will have a much more substantive update at the next meeting, at the next board meeting, once those items are discussed. However, we are fully aware that there may be a reduction in state aid this year as a result of the impact of Hurricane Sandy. We understand that. Mr. Boyce is planning accordingly, and when we build our budget here, we never look 1 year out. You know, we're always looking multiple years down the road and identifying some of our big-ticket expenditures. From a staffing perspective, our overall student population is relatively stable, a little bit of a dip, so we don't anticipate any major staffing concerns, but we are highly cognizant of some of the other burdens that will be placed on the school district over the next couple of years, and we'll be reporting out accordingly in the next few meetings. Our 8th grade orientations are off and running in all 6 of our high schools over the next 2 weeks. Those are occurring. The notice of the time periods for all of those are on our website. For those who have students who are entering the 9th grade next year, I would advise everyone that, those are terrific opportunities to ask questions, to get a real feel for our school district, for the various programs that we have in place in our different high schools. So I would encourage folks to take a look around. On February 27th, I will be conducting a superintendent's forum at the Marlborough Municipal Center. I think we have that date finally etched in, correct, Ms. Williams? February 27th. There'll be more to come on the website of that, but it will be an opportunity for a sort of a town hall forum on the state of our schools for the general community. And I invite everyone to come out and ask some questions. And then I'll speak again after the agenda items. Thank you.
Okay, next up we have board reports. I don't know if there are any board reports. I don't think so. No board reports. Okay, next we come to public participation. We have 4 names. Lori Kessler.
Hi, I'm here in regards to my son who attends Greenwood Township High School. He recently had he's a classified child, and we've had issues throughout the years. Now being a teenager, it's escalated. He was suspended a little over a month ago from school. The issue I'm having is we're trying to get him into a different program, and I'm feeling like everybody's not on a team together, coordinating how this is going to take place. He was suspended, I think it was on the 1st. And he was supposed to go in for an assessment to this new program, which is the RLA program. I don't know if you're familiar with Alvin. And I kept making phone calls trying to find out when this meeting was going to take place. It took that entire period, 10, 11 days, for anybody to get back to him. I later found out that the woman who runs it, that she was out sick. I was very upset that nobody else took her phone calls to get back to me. I ended up calling the principal numerous times. I found out that his counselor was supposed to get in touch with me to let me know this meeting wasn't taking place. We then finally did get a meeting with them, and I found out that he needs to go to another type of a program, an IOP program, to be assessed to see whether he can get into their program. All this time has gone by. We've had issues with getting him in-home instruction because vacation was coming, that was vacation. They keep giving in-home instructors that can't come after work. So this is a kid who's in a bit of trouble and is now home for over a month. So my complaint is that I feel like people aren't coordinating, between this program they're trying to get him into and the program he needs to go to first so he can get into this program, and getting him schooling in the meantime. And I'm here just looking for help. And that's who I go for.
And Mrs. Kessler, I think we had met maybe last school year. Maybe you have a couple minutes, I could, talk with you. And we could really iron out a plan. There probably are some steps and some assessments that need to take place prior to entry into the Regional Learning Academy. But I see both principals are here, and we'll, work with you every step of the way, make sure that your son has a smooth transition.
Okay, next we have Leon Swolnick.
Leon Swolnick, Manalapan. First, I'd like to commend Mr. Sampson for the restraint that you're exercising in reacting to the security of the schools. I think you're handling it the right way. There's too much knee-jerk reactions going to extremes in some areas. The last time I spoke to you, I was commenting about the way Mrs. Close was being anonymously bullied and harassed on the internet while she was running for her seat on the school board. And I was told, rightly so, that because she is not a member of the school and it's not an actual school issue, that you have nothing to say or do about it. But now we have a new situation, which I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, are all aware of now, where you have a sitting school board member personally attacking her with a signed email message, calling her an unhinged lunatic who is either a liar or has a learning disability. And this is totally unacceptable for anybody on this board to make comments about somebody in the public running for office to sit on the school board. Especially, you referenced the shootings in Newtown and all the attention given to mental health issues and the seriousness that we have to apply to that. For somebody to use those issues in a frivolous way to somebody in the public who's running for office is so out of line. And I have to say that I'm disappointed at this board and at Mr. Sampson for not addressing this in a public way. Without addressing this, because this does affect the public and this is part of the board, it seems to me that you lose all credibility in putting up any kind of anti-bullying programs for the public and the students. This is the worst kind of intimidation and harassment, and just it's totally out of place.
Mr. Moses, could I just respond? Leon, first off, the board is fully aware of the allegations and the communications that were made. I think it's important to point out specifically the limitations that this body has. If you remember, at the last meeting at Manalapan, you had raised concerns about possibly some election irregularities, some possible bias and intimidation and possible voter suppression. And at that time, I had it kind of indirect. You did not outright accuse that, but kind of an indirect suppression.
You're putting words in my mouth. I never implied that.
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I just was summarizing. And I had told you that the Monmouth County Board of Elections oversees and runs the election process, as does the Attorney General's office. Kind of in the same vein, this board's ability to discipline, whether it be denouncement, censure, or reprimand one of its own members for conduct that has been alleged to be a violation of the School Ethics Act is no longer permitted. And about a year and a half ago, the Commissioner of Education took away that power for boards to discipline their own members, and I'm very happy to share a copy of that decision. And what I'm just trying to explain is there is no trivializing those comments. If you're not seeing action by this body, the reason why you're not seeing action by this body is not allowed to take action. The matter has been referred over to the Commissioner of Education as a possible violation of the School Ethics Act. In that vein, if it is taken up by the School Ethics Commission, then the due process provisions in that process will play themselves out. This body, though, cannot short-circuit that. And again, I'm not trivializing the comments. I'm not condoning them. I'm not supporting them. We're not attacking them. At this point, because of the fact that there was a referral by somebody already in the public to the Commissioner of Education that this is a potential violation of the School Ethics Act, it's out of this body's hands. And I know that there are those that are sending emails and letters to this body and asking this body for some sort of public response. By the rules that we operate under, the Commissioner of Education prevents this body from taking any action and vests sole authority for a response or an investigation or review in the School Ethics Commission. And that's where everything is right now. So I understand that that's a relatively new nuance in the law. And so I just wanted to clarify that, before there's any, calling out of the individual board members here or Mr. Sampson for not taking public action. I just wanted to explain why that has not occurred.
I appreciate you explaining that. It probably would have been helpful to get feedback from you before we spoke or before the meeting via email or any kind of message to explain that and maybe expedite, the public session without having to come up here and say all that.
Understood.
Gloria?
Good evening, Gloria Close, Manalapan. First of all, congratulations, Mr. Moses and Mr. Terra, for being re-elected on your positions, President and Vice President. Thank you, by the way, the legal advisor, for your explanation. I was the one that, wrote the board members' letter. And quite devastating because, I come here for the last 5 years. I bring to you what concerns me, and I listen to you, and, politely. Sometimes we have a disagreement, but I still, stand here politely and answer everything. But for an elected board member to do that during election time and spread the rumor is beyond me. It really upset my family. Mr. Messenger, my daughter was very upset. Don't say a word.
Can you cut off? I'm gonna respond.
You see, you don't say things like that, like Mr. Sampson explained what happened in Connecticut. You just don't call people mentally disabled. I totally resent that. My point was, I would appreciate if, like I said, Mr. Serrano said it. When I wrote Mr. Sampson and the board president sometime in December, I would have appreciated it to respond to that email to let me know what was going on. I truly believe that Mr. Messenger has broken the code of ethics, because as an elected official, you have no right whatsoever to treat or to call people names. Now, I'm going back to business. I just want to ask you something. On your agenda, can I ask questions on the agenda, Mr. Moses? On page 10, there was an individual here getting promotion, I guess, and it's up to, I believe it was 11,400 rates, which equates to 13.31%. With all this talking about the budget and all this shortage in money, I don't know how you gauge the salary, or maybe if somebody's promoted. This is the last time, remember, we came to you and spoke about the wages of 28%, 20%. I mean, sometimes we have to be slightly realistic and base it on what's happening in the corporate world. I don't know where we are right now, budget's starting. I know, but I have no idea where we are, and I hope that the taxpayers will not be impacted again, considering most, New Jersey had suffered enough from the storm, the Sandy storm. So I hope that we'll be a little bit careful with the way money is spent. Appreciate that. Thank you.
My only response is that the taxpayers haven't been impacted. That money was budgeted for. It's the same appointments that we talked about in October. We took our time making those appointments. It's several months down the road. We were very diligent in the interview process. The folks who are up for appointment this evening are receiving those salaries that were budgeted for those positions, and there has been no impact, as I said, on multiple occasions, to the number of full-time equivalents on the administrative staff and to the total expenditures on administrative staff. It's the same. It is the same structure that we talked about back in October, that the board approved, that we then went about interviewing for those positions. So there is zero impact to the taxpayer.
And I don't know if my economics is correct, Gloria, but I just have to ask this question. The people who are getting these positions, it's not retroactive pay, so we've actually saved some money. Is that true? I mean,
yeah, the B word is breakage that we don't like to use. But yes, we've gone, and Sean Boyce, who's home with the flu right now, would jump over the chair and harm me for using that term. However, we are several months into the school year without having filled those positions. So for this budget year, we'll actually save money for this year.
See that, Gloria?
I'll go on record saying that is not a financial argument that Mr. Boyce would support in his absence.
Well, what he doesn't know won't hurt him. Okay.
Well,
here we go.
Don't tell him that.
He's taking.
Well, we have one more person, Butch. Butch here?
Pass.
Pass.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, Butch. Okay, that brings us to the agenda. I'm going to. I would ask, in deference to those of us on the board who may or may not be related to or be alumni of Notre Dame or Rolling Tide, to take this agenda in one full shot.
Just a quick comment. There on the back of the table, there was an addition to H1 and H2. I just want to make sure that the motion includes these additions.
Yes, that's H1 and H2? Correct. You should have this paper in front of you. Do I need a motion?
Yes.
To take the agenda in one shot?
Second.
Mr. Lawson, second. We need a second.
Bill, I think.
Mr. Bruno.
Okay.
Mr. Bruno?
Mr. Bruno.
Discussion?
Discussion?
I have
Yes.
Okay. I've noticed on page 10, we were just discussing a person given the position of academic supervisor. She was academic supervisor for Freehold Township. I'm assuming somebody's being moved from Colts Neck to Freehold Township, and then the new person is. I'm trying to figure out who's taking the Freehold Township position as academic supervisor?
No one yet. That position has been posted as an anticipated opening.
Oh, okay, okay.
Do we have a termination that's supposed to be on the agenda?
It should be there. Dr. K, the termination is there, correct?
Yeah.
H1.
Page 7.
Page 7.
Acceptance of
Mr. Mazik, page 7, yeah. Last paragraph.
Oh, you mean, okay.
Yes, Mr. Lawson.
Just something that caught my eye, and I'm not sure if I'm right. Under H3, the third individual, Jenna Grander, it looks like she's being changed from a long-term sub to a permanent appointment. Is that
H3?
H3, page 9, third individual?
No, she's just been extended.
The dates are changed.
Yeah.
She's December 18th instead of January 18th.
But it's
It's
ending on the same day.
Right.
Okay.
It's somebody coming
So it's still a long-term sub.
Yes.
It looked to me like a permanent appointment, so I was wondering why it was ending on May 29th. Still a long-term sub.
Still eligible. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Roll call. Roll call.
Mr. Asatola?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mrs. Canario?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavin?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Messenger?
Yes.
Mrs. Sotero?
Yes.
Mr. Mazik?
Yes.
Mr. Moses?
Yes.
Before you announce results. Just before the results of the vote are announced. That's okay. Mr. Lawson?
Would you please change my vote on item L2?
Yes.
L2 to present but taking no action.
Okay, now you can announce the votes.
Before Mr. Sampson says something, I have to say congratulations. I just know Stephanie. I don't know the other people, but Steph, I miss you in the mornings at the pool. I just want to let you know that. The swim team misses you. I just want to tell you.
So we appointed several folks this evening, and I just, I'll ask you just to stand up one by one. First and foremost, and I have to say, and I wrote to the board that I really feel that the team that we have at this point in time assembled in the past couple of years here is second to none in the state, and I mean that. I'd like to, and we're fortunate today to have a few folks who are highly skilled in really diverse ways that I think are going to both help us meet the changing state and national expectations, but also push our skill sets a little bit as well, and allow us to more frequently think outside the box in terms of how we problem solve. So first and foremost, I have Deidre Bova. If you can stand up, Deidre. Deidre is currently the K-12 Supervisor of Language Arts for West Windsor Plainsboro. She's downsizing a little bit to come to us, which we are making out for in terms of the scope of her position. And I happen to be very, very friendly with the administrative team at West Windsor Plainsboro, who absolutely raved about Deidre's skill set and told us we were fortunate to have her. So Deidre's an academic supervisor of English, so welcome aboard, Deidre. The next is, as Mr. Moses talked about being in the pool, Stephanie, I don't know anything about that, but, so Stephanie Meckman is being promoted tonight from academic supervisor of English to administrative supervisor for curriculum and instruction. I have had the good fortune over the past 18 or 19 months to have Stephanie work on a number of district initiatives with me Her work is outstanding. It's impeccable. She has a track record of success in this district that I think will continue to push us forward, and we're fortunate to have the opportunity to promote her tonight. So welcome, Stephanie. Next, we have Leonard Nebo. Leonard's, there you are. Leonard is, you want to talk about diverse skill sets, is the current Director of Technology for the Brick Public Schools and has been in that position for 7 or 8 years. Leonard should be very scared about how the plans we have for him here at Freedom Regional. But again, another individual who was really passionate about curriculum and wanted to come to us to work in the curriculum instruction office, and has a vast skill set as it relates to data analysis, utilizing data, and we think that with him aboard, our curriculum instruction department is going to be able to utilize data in a much more meaningful and impactful way. So Leonard, welcome aboard. We're glad to have you. And finally, Kelly Velez. Kelly, I misspoke in our interview to Kelly, and because Kelly has just for lack of a better term, a cool background. A sort of biological sciences degree from UPenn, worked for a consulting company in education, and then moved into Jersey City, where she's been working with building administrators in terms of coaching up their capacity for the past 6 or 7 years. And during the interview, I said, Dr. Hazel and I spoke. We said, Kelly's skill set is so varied, and I actually said, where do you fit? And Kelly, in true fashion, sent me a very long email after that telling me exactly where she thought she fit. So Kelly is becoming our administrative supervisor for special services. It's a slam dunk for the school district. So welcome aboard, Kelly, and thank you.
I just want to say I hope it wasn't a conflict of interest with Bill, Brick School System.
I'm going to miss Leonard. Len and I have offices next to each other, central. When I have a computer issue, I go next door, and now that office is going to be vacant for a while. So I'll just come find you over here.
All right. We have any old business? Any new business?
Alabama's up 7-0.
Oh, really? No. Well, then that's... Can we have a vote for adjournment, Marianne?
Motion.
A motion. Second. Motion. Marianne, second. I will second. All those in favor? Aye. So shall you say, so shall it be done.